For those of you who've been followers of this channel for a while, you know that I love to hoard my items, and this is because I'm a content creator for the Division 2, and so it's nice to be able to have items at my beck and call so that I can test them and share my ideas in the community. But there are other aspects to holding onto your gear, especially when you find valuable items, that I'm going to share with you. Now, the first reason is because of the unforgiving RNG that we have in the Division 2. First of all, there is almost no standardization with a lot of the brand sets in the game. Because, for instance, some brand sets can have about 6 pieces, while some have less than 6 pieces. So in order for you to make a build, you have to move pieces around, and sometimes it's very difficult to get a unique piece that you might need. And in that case, what I do is if I find a piece that has high numbers or is impressive in its look, I go ahead and I keep it. It is very difficult to do so having 2 characters and 1 inventory stash that is only 150 items large. And so this is probably where we can make a case that the developers need to give us more stash space, because it makes so much sense that we're able to keep a lot of our gear since the RNG does not allow for a lot of flexibility. And so with this devastating RNG, if you even look at the side of weapons, you can always see that sometimes you find a weapon that you actually prefer to use because it has all the talents that you need, but in some cases it's going to have a low damage roll. And so this means that you're probably going to go ahead and keep farming to maybe one day find a weapon that is of the kind that you want and has the same kinds of talents with a high damage roll. And so things like this make it very difficult for you to find items. And so once in a while, I'll keep for myself 1 weapon type of every kind so that I can actually have something in the case that I'm needing to use it. And if I find something that's very good in regard to a brand set with good rolls, I go ahead and I keep it. The second reason that I hoard my gear is because of the narrow build diversity in the game. Now, please mark my words, I said narrow build diversity. Some people have said that there is no build diversity in the game. That statement is too broad, and I don't think that is an accurate statement. There is some build diversity in the game. It's just not as wide as the build diversity that we are used to coming from the Division 1. I think that is a better and a more accurate statement to show where we are in the Division 2, but nonetheless, almost everything in the Division 2 that many people build actually specs into the damage class. This does not mean that some people do not spec the skill classes, because I've seen many builds, many videos, and many forums in which people talk about their different skill builds and how they use them. But nonetheless, because of the narrow build diversity, it is very wise for you to hold on to some items that are very difficult to come by. Items that may be difficult to come by are good chest pieces, good holsters, or knee pads. Now, when it comes to gloves, there's a lot more room and there's a lot more flexibility, because a lot of gloves get to drop within the game. I think almost every class has gloves, and so you can leverage that and get some of the stats and some of the talents within the gloves. But because of the narrow build diversity, ladies and gentlemen, I have to keep a lot of the good items that I find, and I'm mostly always maxed out on space, but I know exactly why I'm doing so, because it's really nice to be able to pick up something whenever you want to build or whenever you want to play differently and spec differently, and just get the items that are just in your stash. Another reason that I hoard my gear is because of frequent changes within the game. If you think about it, how many changes have we had since the launch of the game? The game was released in March, and right now it is about June. So April, May, June, in about 3 months, we've had drastic shifts in the entirety of the game because of simple changes, in some cases nerfs, in some cases buffs. But because of these changes, many times our builds that we've already strived for can lose anywhere from about 20 to even 30 or 40% of its efficiency once a change like this is made. And so hanging on to some items that are valuable or things that you see that may be quite useful is a way to be able to mitigate all the frequent changes that come around in the game. And just to break it to you, the changes that we've seen so far are probably not going to be the last of them. The development team is usually very itchy, and sometimes they change things out of nowhere. So I keep a lot of my items, so when there's a change, I'm able to just adjust and adapt as quickly as possible, because that is the way to go when it comes to a looter shooter. Sometimes balancing means changing things, which is not necessarily balancing, but changing things to keep the players playing. And then another aspect of keeping your items is for convenience. When it comes to content creation, it's nice to be able to go into my stash and pretty much build anything that I want to build, save maybe I'm in a spot where I can't find one or two items. But for the most part, if you want to build or put anything together, there's a likelihood that you will find it in my stash or in my second character. So that convenience is actually very good for me. Another reason that I enjoy keeping my items and making sure I'm stacked up with some of the best possible items that I find in the field is experimentation. Once in a while, or many times, you might get bored with your build. And when you do, the best thing to do is to actually take the old build, put it aside, and start building another idea that you may come up with. And in order to start doing this, you may have to go out there and farm for the items, which there's nothing against. That farming journey is actually nice and gives you something to do. But in many cases, it's nice to actually take that build, put it together, and go in the field. While you're testing it, then you can start to fine-tune the different aspects of the build and actually make it work. Which leads me into the final point, which is building and min-maxing my gear. In order to min-max your gear, what you're trying to do is you're trying to maximize all the strengths of your gear. If there's any aspect or attribute of your gear that seems to be low, min-maxing is the goal of trying to make it as high as possible. And with the way the recalibration works in the Division 2 currently, you can transfer, in specific cases, an attribute from one item to another brand set or a weapon. And so in this case, when you find an item that has a high roll, it is valuable for you. And when it's time to build and min-max, you can take those high stats and roll them to the other stats. Now, for those of you who are new players who may be wondering, well, I don't have any room to keep all these items, there are ways to go around doing it. You can create a second character and you can unlock some of the backpack space and be able to store about 30 plus items in the other character. This is the first way to go. If and when you've done that and you don't have time to start leveling up all the way to level 30 for a second character, you can create a third character and a fourth character that would then give you much more room. And as time goes on, you can level up the second character to get the full 100 backpack space, which will give you more items in storage. So these are the reasons I hoard my gear, and I want to hear the reasons why you either hoard or discard gear that you're not using at the moment. Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys for your time and audience. Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate you guys so much. If you enjoyed the content, let me know in the comment section as well. And I guess I'll see you in the next video. Peace.